Hey folks, AshaleThingsDentistry.com. A viewer asked me if I had any tips regarding Class 3 composite placement, and perhaps preparation was just sort of the generic Class 3 question. And I have a few tips. I was just talking with a few of the other my other colleagues, and here are a few of them that came up. So we'll talk about preparation before you even get started, then doing the actual tooth preparation, and then restoring. So one of the things that I like to do, I mean, everyone's got their own way of doing it, and that's why I'm almost reluctant to talk about this, but hopefully if it's helpful, it is. I've learned one huge one that made a significant difference when I first started out, and that's in terms of finishing the composite on the lingual surface of these teeth is really difficult. So using a slow round burr will remove the composite, abrade away the composite before you abrade teeth, because normally what I was doing was using included like a 7901, which is this flame finishing burr. I was using a high-speed either round burr or a high-speed football burr, and what was happening was that I was gouging into the enamel as well. So let me see here. So instead of doing this, I just use a slow speed, and I still use that to today. It removes the composite faster than the enamel, so you don't wear away enamel. So in any event, preparing for the preparation, typically I use a metal matrix for these, and there's a few reasons why. I mean, probably everyone except for me, I don't know, uses a clear plastic matrix. I've always found that trying to slip these in, I mean, you have to pre-wedge, and even on here, this is Teflon tape. Another guy I was talking to uses, if it's a large Class 3 and the contact is already broken, say the Class 3 comes all the way up here, it's not a Class 4, it's just a Class 3, say on the facial side, on the palatal side, and the contact's broken, you can slide the Teflon tape in and contour your composite, placing that. If you don't, that's almost impossible to get the Teflon through. It's very difficult to work with. What I found with these acetate clear matrices is that trying to get it through the contact, I always tear it. And it's almost become more difficult and frustrating for me to use one of these things. You can see it's already got that little gouge at the bottom there. That is, and of course, you can solve that problem by pre-wedging. Definitely. So normally what I'll do, and then it slides down nice and neat, and you're good to go. So that's one thing. But what I'll use, even for preparation beforehand, is I'll use one of these little kidney-shaped little metal matrices, and these will stay in typically the whole time. I mean, every situation is different. You say, well, I do this. You'll hear folks say, I do this the whole time, every time. Well, it's hard to do the same thing every time. I try to, at my best, use use some sort of metal matrix, a thin one, because it easily slides through the contact. I use my, these are neat little, if you haven't seen these little wedges, there are a whole bunch of different plastic styles. And then what I do is I'll do my preparation with this metal matricey kind of back like this, so I can see what I'm doing, and that prevents me from touching the adjacent tooth. And then what I'll do is, not all the time, but I mean, if it's a brand new lesion, or if you feel weary about breaking the contact, you can use some sort of an instrument, leave sort of a little lip of enamel there, and then just break that off with a sharp instrument. I mean, don't be afraid to use hand instruments. We all use them during dental school. And then you can use your hand instrument just to finish this, because it's going to be fairly thin enamel. And I'm not going to talk about the design of preparation, because that always changes with the literature. Whether you bevel here, bevel there, do that, and that's not sort of what I want to talk about here. So you finish your preparation, and then etch, bond, or use a self-adhesive, whatever technique you're using, total etch or self-etch. And then placing your resin in there, one of the things I was taught as well is to use a metal matrix. And it adheres nicely because it's thin. You get a really nice adaptation. You can do, obviously it's going to be a little nicer with the plastic matricey, but you'll get a nice adaptation. And then what you can do, So you can see how it's nice. It's flat against the palatal portion of the tooth. Place my composite resin. Cure just around the tooth, and you're going to say, well, it's not curing the composite, and you're right, it's not. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to get some basic curing sort of surface area. I'm going to cure around here and around here, try and get the surface cured, and then take this off and then cure to depth from the palatal, facial, and the incisal, so that the metal just seems to get a really nice contour when you do this. I mean, not every situation you can use this. You might have to use a clear matrix as well. So then when I'm finishing, we'll take that off. Like I was alluding to before, typically use a round burr, nice and slow. Yeah, I tell my patient, tell the folks that we're going down a gravel road. Mr. Bumpy's coming up. That's what we call for the kids. We're going down a gravel, a little bit bumpy. So some vibration, lightly brush stroke, and you'll soon see the delineation between the flash and removal of the flash, and then finally to the your preparation margin, and you'll not whittle away tooth structure. And then additionally, I mean, what's always tough is the gingival margin. That's really tough to finish that. So what I'll use is a 12 blade. Okay, so I've got some composite here. It's expired, but that's fine for purposes today. I'm just going to use the, I'm going to just place it in, and definitely you want to check to see, wow, look how hard that is. Pretty doughy. So you do your bonding technique, whatever you're doing at that point, and incremental curing, because that's still shown in a lit to be an acceptable technique. And then I'm just going to remove some of the flash here, the excess flash. And of course, this is, I'm doing it the really easy way, direct, which is fairly difficult naturally. So I'll remove as much flash because it'll make our finishing much simpler and easier, faster. How about that? Then I'll roll this over. Stick an instrument there to try to, actually we might be able to show. So I'm trying to get some contour. Like that. Grab the lab curing light. So I'm just curing to get some surface conversion or surface curing. Okay, so at this point, just take a look. So it's just cured enough that I can check to make sure that I don't have any voids, and I can pull my matrix off, and then cure fully. Okay, so I fully cured the composite, and here we are at this stage. So now it's fully cured. You can see that we have some flash, so it's important to remove that flash. So one of the tips that I've been taught is to use, instead of a high-speed football burr, is to use a slow round burr. So I use a number 6 or 8, and this removes composite. I mean, this is a plastic too, so it's tough. So it removes composite before it does tooth structure. So that's fairly helpful. Obviously, you'll be checking. So you can see it actually nicely right there, and it's so I remove the excess flash. And now for the flash of the interproximal, you can do this in any order that you want. Typically use a 12 blade, which is this shape. And a colleague I was talking with said he's never used one. He said, why do people, I've heard people say use a 12 blade, and fair enough, I mean, you can use whatever you want. The reason why I typically do is because when I fire up the 7901 in a high speed, especially from the paddle, it's difficult and I'll get gouging. And also, I mean, look at, let me just rest that there. Look how much play I get in this bearing system. This is one of many hand pieces. So there's a significant amount of play that translates into that motion at the tip of the handpiece. Of course, if you have brand new handpieces, that may be a different story. So let me just use my air. So I removed and then I polished with enhance points after this. And so I use either a gold knife, which I used to use, or this 12 blade, just to remove any of the excess flash interproximally. And you can use this to shape your composite as you see fit. Come around, don't forget to come around from the facial aspect. Let's see if I can get this in. It's really tough to get that in the shot. Come around from the facial aspect just to make sure you don't have any flash. Wow, that is tough to get in the air. I'm not left-handed. There we go. Again, that's a 12 blade, so it's really helpful. It's fairly helpful. And then whatever polishing things you use, either enhance points, you've got diamond polishing paste, you've got anything. So just to review, leave any down there too. That's important to check just to make sure. So then just to check with your Explorer and visual, make sure you've got no open margins. And there you have it. So I hope that helps. A few tips. The biggest one for me when I was just starting out was the round burr on enamel. Cheers.